That was the biggest mistake in the whole peace process, that the Afghan government was excluded. When like I said earlier, the first American Taliban talks started in 2011 in Munich.
أهلا بكم مشاهدينا الكرام، أنا طاهر بركة أحييكم، أقدم إليكم حلقة جديدة من برنامجكم الذاكرة السياسية نتابع فيها مع محمد عمر داود زي وزير الداخلية الأفغاني الأسبق. أهلا بكم معنا معالي الوزير مجددا. لفتني أثناء التحضير لهذه الحلقات بأنه في حديث لا أعرف إذا كنت تدقق فيه يعني تصحح لنا أو تؤكد عن لقاء عدة شخصيات أفغانية بقادة كان من المفترض أن يكونوا من طالبان ليتبين لاحقا أنهم أشخاص عاديون وليسوا قادة في طالبان، ومما قرأته أنه حصل ذلك معك شخصيا مع أخطر محمد منصور لتكتشف لاحقا أنه هذا ليس هو الشخص. من يعني كيف حصل ذلك ومن الذي اقترح الاسم؟ هل هي جهات أجنبية؟
Yes, it was as part of Obama's strategy who called for peace with Taliban and then allowed the Afghan government, who encouraged the Afghan government to go ahead with the talks with Taliban. And in 2010, the president of Afghanistan called in the Loya Jirga, and that Loya Jirga then established the High Peace Council. Right at that time, Taliban also got the message from various circles of Taliban. They contacted the Afghan government, exploring the possibilities of a reconciliation, not really talking. But then here, an Afghan institution, with the facilitation of foreign partners, they brought a man to Kabul pretending to be Mullah Akhtar Mohammad Mansour. Initially, somebody else came as his representative, and that was not his representative. But then came this other person, and that other person turned out not to be, after the meeting, not to be Akhtar Mohammad Mansour. I knew Akhtar Mohammad Mansour personally because when I was working with United Nations during the episode of the hijacking of Indian plane in Kandahar, I was representing United Nations, and almost 10 days we were together because Akhtar Mohammad Mansour was the Minister of Civil Aviation at that time. So I knew him very well face to face. I was during that visit on a visit to France. When I came back and I looked at the pictures, it was not Akhtar Mohammad. So I told President Karzai, and then it was later revealed that it wasn't. It was a mistake. It was an innocent mistake.
هل كان هناك حقا علاقة ودية جمعت إيران بحركة طالبان؟
Yes, there was. Initially, Iran started supporting the Afghan government and an American presence, basically. Maybe they were not supporting American presence, but they were indifferent about that and supporting the Afghan government. But from the day President Bush announced Iran, Iraq, and North Korea as axis of evil, then Iran got a message that no matter what they do, the opposite is thinking differently. So they started then digging into Taliban. Another reason was that their traditional friends, like the Northern Alliance, they had switched sides and they were very much pro-Americans. So Iran then started capitalizing on Taliban. They initially started helping them, but after 2014, they exacerbated, they intensified their support to Taliban. Why? Because in 2013 and 14, Taliban had become very weak, almost faced extinction. Then that's the stage Pakistan started supporting Haqqani group, and Iran started supporting some commanders of the southwest.
كيف كانت طبيعة هذا الدعم الإيراني لحركة طالبان في تلك السنوات؟
Our reports was that they were providing with money, with ammunition, with weapons such as sniper weapons and many other weapons that Taliban badly needed.
هل كانت إيران باعتقادك يعني أميل وتفضل وجود حكم طالبان على حدودها من حكم الرئيس كارزاي أو الرئيس غني، حكم مدعوم أمريكيا؟
When Karzai was in power, they certainly preferred Karzai. Karzai was a very close friend of them. Over Ghani, they preferred Taliban. And with Americans, they always told us clearly that enemy of the enemy is friend. And they said Taliban are the enemy of our enemy, which is the US. Therefore, Taliban are our friends.
إيران حتى دعمت كارزاي بالأموال بمئات ملايين الدولارات.
Not hundreds, but maybe tens over the years.
كم الرقم الذي شهدت عليه شخصيا؟
Around 3 million euros per year was coming to Karzai's office, off budget.
طيلة 13 عاما قضاها كارزاي في السلطة؟
Yes, starting from 2002. From early 2002, when Khatami was the president, he offered that assistance to Karzai, and Karzai accepted that, and it continued until Karzai was in office.
أين كانت تصرف هذه الأموال؟ كيف؟
Okay, the money was spent as supplement salaries, like certain category of qualified staff who were not well paid, and the salary system was not well established to pay them well. So Karzai will supplement it from that budget. And also for treatment of special patients, he would send abroad to India, particularly to tribal elders to gain their support, to religious leaders to gain their support. I mean, to various ways to strengthen his government.
هل كانت إيران تريد دعم الهزارة يعني الشيعة في أفغانستان؟ وهل فعل الرئيس كارزاي ذلك؟ خصهم بسبب الدعم الإيراني؟ خصهم بالمال بالمناصب؟
Not because of Iran, probably. Karzai wanted to keep unity, and he wanted to help minorities more in order to strengthen the national unity. Hazaras are minority, and he was helping them. But one can say that the Hazara groups, they had a role in keeping the Karzai-Iranian relationship strong. They may have that role.
هناك تقارير تحدثت، السؤال الآن بالعكس، هناك تقارير تحدثت عن دفع الحكومة الأفغانية أو الحكومات المتعاقبة أموالا لشخصيات من طالبان لكي يأمنوا جانبهم ويأمنوا قيامهم بعمليات ضدهم ويأمنوا مرور قافلاتهم ومواكبهم في مناطق تسيطر عليها طالبان، إن كان بالنسبة إلى الحكومة الأفغانية أو بالنسبة إلى الدول التي كانت متواجدة بقواتها في أفغانستان. هل هذا الكلام دقيق؟
Not that part, I cannot qualify it, but every big project in Afghanistan, 20% budget were allocated for security. And that security allocated budget from projects were going to Taliban's commanders, and they were being paid so that they don't attack the projects, so that the project is implemented. Now, most of these projects were foreign funded, and some of them had foreign engineers present there, foreign workers present there. So I cannot qualify that if foreign military paid Taliban. But foreign implemented projects certainly helped local commanders to keep them away from the projects.
دفع الأموال كان من الأفغان، من الحكومات المتعاقبة لقادة في طالبان، ولكن ليس بالضرورة من الدول الأجنبية.
I think both Western, even the regional countries, whoever had a project, it had become a norm that when a budget was allocated for a project, 20% was going to security. That didn't mean that they were hiring or raising a new army. That 20% was going to Taliban not to harm that project. Some of the major projects, such as the telephone towers, electricity towers, they were also paying Taliban not to attack them, because if they didn't pay, then Taliban will blast the telephone tower. and then it would be a huge loss for the company. So the company was paying them.
لما كانت للدولة أن تقوم، ولكن في نفس الوقت كان هذا المال يقوي طالبان، هنا المعضلة الأساسية. هل صحيح أن طهران كانت تنظر إليك في البداية على أنك أمريكي أكثر منك أفغانيا؟
When I was assigned to Iran as envoy, the Jamhuri Islami newspaper of Taliban, they wrote an article that Daud coming as ambassador to Tehran, meaning reopening of the U.S. embassy in Tehran. So it made my job very difficult. But there was certain that accusation. That accusation was there.
بالمعنى السياسي أقصد من كنت تمثل وليس أنت شخصيا، ألم يكن ذلك حقيقيا أو صحيحا، خاصة وأن زيارة كانت محددة للرئيس كارزاي إلى طهران ألغيت يعني إما بطلب أو بأمر كما يقول البعض أمريكي؟
Yes, it was true. This was December 2005. A planned visit of President Karzai was cancelled because the night before, Condoleezza Rice called him, say, please postpone your visit because there is a debate in the UN Security Council on human rights issues related to Iran. So at this stage, while the Security Council is meeting and you go to Tehran, this doesn't sound good. So that trip was cancelled in the last minute. But then that trip took place on January 16, 2006. That took place again.
إذا قلنا أنه باكستان لديها مخاوف بشأن البشتون في علاقتها مع أفغانستان، ما المخاوف الإيرانية بشأن علاقتها مع أفغانستان؟ هل الإبقاء على نظام ديني مثلها ولو كان مختلفا عنها على حدودها كي لا يتطلع شعبها إلى التغيير؟
Well, Iran has slightly different concerns and slightly different ambitions. Their concern is water. Iran's eastern provinces are hugely dependent on water that flows in the Helmand and Hari Road. It doesn't matter who is in power in Kabul, Iran has that problem. Now, back in 1971, there was a treaty signed. Now, in the treaty, they didn't mention, but the then king of Iran, he promised $1 to $2 billion assistance every year in return for the water. So Iran always was thirsty and always wanted Afghan water. Now, yes, and President Ghani, when he inaugurated the Kamal Khan Dam, he said, if you want water, give me oil for free. That was something Iran didn't like and considered as threat. So maybe that was one reason the Taliban got quickly stronger. But anyway, even with Taliban, they have that issue of water. So the issue of water doesn't relate to anyone in Kabul. It's between two countries. But then there are other issues that the Shiite population, the way they are treated in Afghanistan, that's their concern. Promotion of Farsi language in Afghanistan is Iran's ambition. And they are afraid of certain terrorist groups in Afghanistan who are anti-Iran.
تمام. ولكن بالمقابل هناك يعني نقاط أيضا مهمة حول وضع السنة في طهران أو في إيران عموما كما تقول في كتابك، وهو ما أسألك عنه بعد الفاصل إذا تكرمت. شكرا جزيلا لوجودك معنا. مشاهدينا الكرام، فاصل قصير قبل أن نتابع ما لدينا في هذه الحلقة من الذاكرة السياسية مع محمد عمر داود زي وزير الداخلية الأفغاني الأسبق. ابقوا معنا.
From the day President Trump came into office, one of their senior diplomats told me that there are debates in Washington that let's talk to Taliban.
أهلا بكم مجددا مشاهدينا الكرام إلى هذه الحلقة من الذاكرة السياسية مع محمد عمر داود زي وزير الداخلية الأفغاني الأسبق. أهلا بك معنا مجددا معالي الوزير. دعم الحكومة الأفغانية كارزاي تحديدا للهزارة بأموال إيرانية ولغير الهزارة كذلك ألم يكن يقلق القوميات الأخرى مثل البشتون والطاجيك، خاصة وأنت تقول في كتابك أنه كان في طموحات وأطماع إيرانية في أفغانستان، ولكن في المقابل لم يكن هناك مسجد سني واحد في العاصمة الإيرانية طهران لتصلوا فيه عندما كنت مبعوثا هناك.
Yes, that's correct. There was no Sunni masjid. We had turned the basement of the embassy into a mosque. and the Sunni Afghans that were living around the embassy, they were coming for prayer there. Or let's say for Eid prayers, Jummah prayers, we had to pray in open area. And so was the case with other embassies, the Saudi embassy, the Emirate embassy. They all had their own arrangement because there were no Sunni mosques in the whole of Tehran. But certainly there were plenty of Sunni population, Iranian and non-Iranian. So they were not giving their rights. And also to the eastern parts of Iran, there are Sunni population. To the west, there are Arab Sunni population. They are not giving them their rights, but they want Afghanistan to give the Shiites more priority than others. I mean, the Afghan Shiites are our brothers. They are close to our hearts, and we are treating them equal, like Pashtuns, like Tajiks, like Uzbeks. But Iran is accused of protecting the Shia population more in Afghanistan.
ألم تطرح هذا الموضوع معهم عندما كنت مبعوثا لبلادك في إيران؟ ماذا كانوا يقولون؟
I mentioned the question of the mosque, that there should be a Sunni mosque in Tehran, or there should be, they should give permission to build, for Sunnis to build mosque. They would not comment.
من هو الشخص الذي سرب موضوع الأموال الإيرانية التي تتدفق إلى خزنة الرئيس كارزاي شخصيا لنيويورك تايمز؟ هل حان الوقت للكشف عن اسمه؟
Yeah, that I wouldn't name.
وفقا لويكيليكس فإنك أبلغت السفير الأمريكي فرانسيس ريكياردون بأن هناك مسؤولين أفغانا أيضا على البيرول الإيراني، على قائمة الدفع الإيراني شهريا لضمان ولائهم. هل تؤكد ذلك؟
Yes, there are Afghan clerics, Shia clerics that are graduated from Iranian madrasas. When they come back to Afghanistan, they get their monthly salary from the source where they have graduated from the Supreme Leader's office. And to the government officials also, there were many cases that an Iranian delegation will come and meet with a minister, and when they leave a pocket behind, and the pocket is money. So some ministers took it, and others reported it to the president. This was Iranian habit that they were giving. So how much they were giving, we wouldn't know. But certainly, yes, that was their habit. They were trying to buy loyalty of the Afghan officials by giving them money.
لماذا تراجعت عن حملتك الرئاسية في 2014؟
This was when President Karzai visited US in January 2013. When he returned, he told us that President Obama told him that you cannot extend yourself, you cannot we will not accept your brother to become president, and we will not accept your close friends to become president. So I was his close friend, and when he told me the story, I said, do you mean I should give up? He said, yes. I said, okay. And my boss, I gave up. And then he asked me to encourage his brother and others like Zalmay Rasul to give up. I did encourage, but they didn't give up. Zalmay Rasul stood to the end, while his brother later on changed his mind.
لتتولى تأمين هذه الانتخابات من خلال تسلمك وزارة الداخلية، كيف عملت على تأمينها وكيف مضت الأمور بهدوء دون عمليات من طالبان؟
Yes, that was a very critical moment because we were in the process of handover of lead responsibility from ISAF forces to Afghan forces. So I was overseeing that handover, and at the same time I was in charge of security because President Karzai had issued a decree that Minister of Interior is in charge of the entire security of the elections. So the way I did it, I started with a police seminar. I gathered everybody, all leaders of the police in one room. I took their oath that they will not interfere and they will remain impartial and they will make sure that election goes smooth. The same happened in the intelligence, the same happened in the army. Now, with that strong motivation, they managed to secure election. On the day of election, in every polling station, and the first force was police, After 1 kilometer, it was army, and after 5 kilometers, it was helicopters of the ISAF that was patrolling, and intelligence were everywhere. So I mean, we had very detailed plan, accurate plan, and I had motivated every police to do everything to make sure that election take place and take place in a secure environment. It was exceptional that in 2014, 8 million people came out to vote. In 2019, 2 million came out to vote.
تمام. وطالبان كيف أمنتم جانبها؟ هل كان هناك جهات تحاول أن تفاوضها أو يعني ترضيها؟
Negotiation always was there, but that was not a major factor. I think the major factor was the force, the Afghan National Security and Defense Force, that crushed Taliban wherever they were. And they were pushed to Pakistan, or they were pushed to very high mountains where they were hiding.
هل صحيح أن كارزاي نصح بعدم تسليم السلطة؟
Yes, some people did advise him on the ground that his successor was not qualified enough, and therefore Karzai should continue until re-announcing election. That advice was given. And in fact, I also had a soft corner towards that advice. I also had expressed that if we find a way that he extend for another 6 months beyond his limit, and within 6 months he recalled the election, because the way election was managed from the electoral point of view, the successor was not, I mean, the successor arrangement was not bright enough. We didn't have confidence, and we were right. So in that 5 years, the state went down.
يبدو أنك أنت الذي نصحته إذن، ولكن لماذا فشلت هذه النصيحة؟ لماذا لم ترى النور؟
I don't know, because he was the president, he decided, but yes, I supported that advice. I did support.
لماذا لم يحصل أو كيف ارتفعت نسبة ما حصل عليه من أصوات الرئيس غاني في الجولة الأولى من 32% إلى ما حصل عليه لاحقا في الجولة الثانية؟ هل زورت الانتخابات في 2014؟
Every election in Afghanistan is rigged, but how much? That's the difference. In 2014 also there were rigging, but
يعني أعلى نسبة؟
Not to jeopardize election. I think 2014 election, the first round, Dr. Abdullah emerged as 45% and Ghani emerged as 32%. Now in the runoff, it went the other way around. Ghani emerged as 55% and Abdullah remained at 45%. So he remained there. Now, Abdullah claimed that he has won, but as Minister of Interior, that was not the case. In my opinion, because Ghani did 370 public gatherings. Abdullah did 270. So the less public gathering you do, the less voters you mobilize.
طيب، وكيف شهدت على تقاسم حكومة الوحدة الوطنية أو تقاسم الرئاسة بتعبير أفضل بين غني وعبد الله والجهود الأمريكية للدفع بهذا الاتجاه خاصة من جون كيري؟
Yes, that was a mistake. When John Kerry arrived, he had his first meeting with us as security departments, and there I advised him on behalf of my other colleagues that not to go for national unity government. I gave him 2 examples that it doesn't work in Afghan context. The communist regime was a national unity government, the Khalq and the Parcham, and they fought each other, and that basically prepared ground for the Soviet invasion. And in the Mujahideen, the Hizb Islami and Jamaat Islami, the same ideology, but one president, the other prime minister, and they started fighting with each other. So I advised him not to go for that. But they had made up their mind. And I advised President Ghani also not to accept it. But he went ahead, he accepted it.
كيف تفرق بين كارزاي وغني من حيث مواطن القوة ومواطن الضعف بين الرجلين؟
President Karzai was a listener. He was a good leader. He had exceptional leadership qualities. But his management was weak. He wasn't very good manager. Ghani was a very high intellectual, book reader. He knew a lot. Every day I meet with him half an hour, then I realize I have learned something new from him. but he was not a good leader and not a brilliant manager either.
فيما يتعلق بتلك المرحلة، كيف لاحظت تسريع واشنطن الخطى للانسحاب من أفغانستان؟ ما الدلائل التي كانت لديك؟
The indication was from the day President Trump came into office. One of their senior diplomats told me that there are debates in Washington that let's talk to Taliban. And I said, maybe that's a good idea. He said, well, some people argue that in Vietnam, when the Americans started talking to Viet Cong, the South collapsed. Maybe if Americans talk to Taliban, Kabul may collapse. On that day, I argued that no, I don't think that's the case. Vietnam and Afghanistan are very different things, but I was wrong. So President Trump then appointed, like I said, Ambassador Khalilzad, and he started from Pakistan, and he started meeting with Taliban in the absence of the Afghan government.
No.
So those were indications that Americans are tired, they're exhausted, they want to leave. But they were assuring us that they would only leave if they have a combined inclusive arrangement in place. But they came that even that didn't take place and they left.
سؤال أخير باختصار، هل ترى بأن هناك رابط بين الانسحاب الأمريكي من أفغانستان وما حصل لاحقا في أوكرانيا؟
Yes, I believe. Many people don't agree with me, but I believe that I knew in November 2021 that Russia is going to invade Ukraine sometimes in 2022. Americans should have known it 2 years ago. I think their calculation may have been that if they restart the war in Afghanistan and then Russia invade Ukraine, then they may be supporting Ukrainian against Russia, and Russia may be supporting Taliban against Americans, and even Al-Qaeda against it. So I think they wanted to withdraw to be free for Ukraine. I believe that, but many Americans and non-Americans disagree with me. But that's my analysis. Yes, there is connection.
هكذا نكون وصلنا الماضي بالحاضر معك في هذه الحلقات معالي الوزير. شكرا لوجودك معنا مجددا.
Thank you.
مشاهدينا الكرام، هكذا إذن نكون قد وصلنا إلى ختام هذه الحلقة وهذه الحلقات تلفزيونيا على الأقل. نتابع في هذه الحلقة على بودكاست العربية. الأسبوع المقبل شخصية جديدة وذاكرة سياسية جديدة. أرجو أن تكونوا معنا. إلى اللقاء.